morning, everybody. Good morning. Good morning to you. Happy Loser Monday. It's what we're used to. What was all this stuff? What was all the stuff we were talking about? You know, hey, here's what it's about, Jets fans. You win some, you lose some. But you live to fight another day, and that's what we'll be doing. Welcome to the show. Welcome to GreenBean's Jets Pod. Yeah, man, I am Green Bean, and this, my friends, is episode 192. 192 times we've gotten together as friends, and we've listened to the thoughts and musings of a 50-something-year-old fella who somehow got the name Green Bean. What the hell is that all about? That's a whole other thing. We would need a psychiatrist and some sort of bed and a hypnotic little stopwatch. Tick, tick, tick. You are getting heavy. Something like that to figure that stuff out. But I'm Green Bean nonetheless. Been Green Bean a long time. As a matter of fact, I just got this thing from YouTube. It told me that I am now, my channel has been active on YouTube. This December is the 5-year anniversary. Yay! Welcome to the celebration. Yeah, man. So 5 years on YouTube. I was doing Jet Nation before that. As far as videos and all that jazz as Green Bean. And I would have been Green Bean on the Jets message boards on the internet since about, let's call it 1997. Think about that. You know what, these kids today, they can say Green Bean was on the message boards back in the 1900s. That's what it can be. That's how you can say it. Isn't that crazy? So anywho, episode 191, I'm glad you're here. Do you think you know football? Well, you've heard me talk about it every single week. I love it. You know I do. Then turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app. The best place to turn game day into payday. All you got to do, you download the app. A great offer Sleeper has right now is they're willing to give you $20 to get started, no deposit necessary. Get on in the app, you pick your game, you look at the props that are right there for you, pick your favorite player, pick more or less for whatever they say the predicted stats are, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money with the Sleeper app. Take advantage of that $20 promo, and then once you like the app, use the promo code GreenBean to get up to a $100 match on your initial deposit with the Sleeper app. I made it real easy for you. The link's right in the description of this video. Go ahead and join Sleeper to, again, turn game day into payday. Terms and conditions do apply. I will say, if you're new here, welcome, man. We have a good time. You know, we just talk. You know, we dissect things. We expand it. There's no pressure here. I don't have to keep it to 29 minutes. I don't have to get out of here at any time or anything. So we allow it to happen. We've gotten a large crew of people that are, I'd say, consistent contributors. You know. We've been around a long time. We've been together a long time. So welcome if you're new here. I'm glad to have you. If you'd be so kind, I have a goal of 15,000 subscribers this year. So we have a goal. If you'd be so kind, we'd love to have you to consider supporting the channel, hitting that subscribe button. And the easiest thing to do in the world is to hit the like button, which we like to call the milk thumbs. And we milk them. That's what we're doing. We're milking the thumb. So hit the milk thumbs. That would be greatly appreciated. And guys, you know, it's a funny thing. You know, I'm not going to talk too much about the game. You know, we know what happened. If you're here, you're not showing up to this show, to this podcast, this live stream, not a live stream, I guess, this video. That's what I was looking for. You're not showing up here going, hey, what happened in the Jets game? You're not doing that. If you're here, if you're hanging out with me, you already know that the New York Jets were swept by the Miami Dolphins, who aren't even really that good, but they swept us, man. It's probably going to be a division sweep. Dolphins, they were the team that we had the most chance to split with. And earlier in the season, truth be told, even though I didn't have really fantastic expectations for this team, like so many did, you thought we might be, quote, better than you think. I wasn't one of those. But even with that, I thought that we were going to split with the Dolphins or even sweep them. I really did. But it was the complete opposite. Officially now, as of this game, the Jets have been swept by the Hard Rock Stadium occupying Miami Dolphins, the team I hate most in the entire league, and whose fans, even though I have some of my most beloved friends, some of the friends I've had for the longest time, whom I dearly love, are Dolphins fans. They are the most hated fan base. I can't stand Dolphins fans as an overall. Now, that, just so you know, I grew up in the era with the Marino stuff, right? The Mud Bowl. I officially became a Jets fan. The Mud Bowl. That was the day I put my flag in the ground and said, "This is where I will stay. This is it for me. No winning in my future." It was the Mud Bowl, the AFC Championship game. The first time the Jets made it to the AFC Championship game, played the Dolphins, and the A.J. Dewey 2 pick sixes and the 5 interceptions and the mud and all that jazz. But not only that, so I grew up in that era of like O'Brien versus Marino and all that stuff. And the Patriots sucked and the Bills sucked for a lot of that time. And then the Jim Kelly Bills were around and they had 4 Super Bowls. And so they were a tough team. That I hate our division, make no mistake. But the Dolphins, the Marino era. Marino was such a POS, man. That guy, I didn't like him at all. Thankfully, it wasn't the internet era where you can know every thought he's having, or I would have really hated him. I hated him enough just with the Isotoner glove commercials. Remember those freaking commercials? Isotoner gloves. Isotoner. They were made for Mercedes driving. That's what they were made for. Like you can see like the hardwood steering wheel, the glossy one. You know what I mean? Remember that thing? So but also on top of that, when I went down to Florida to get sober, I went down to Miami and I ended up living there for about 15, 16 years. And I worked right in Miami. I worked about, without exaggeration, 5 minutes, maybe 10 max from the stadium. And I lived 15, 20 minutes away from it. Let's call it 20 minutes. So I was there. The Jets played down there in Miami. I went to that game, but I was immersed in that Miami baloney. So I hate the Dolphins. So the fact that we got swept by them today bothers me. In a different way. Obviously the Patriots are what they are after the dynasty and all that shit. And here they are again with 11. It's crazy. It's crazy. The Patriots are back in a big way, and we're still down here holding up the bottom for everybody. Don't worry, we got the foundation of the AFC East. We'll hold it down. We got it. We'll hold everybody up. But yeah, getting swept by the Dolphins. So we did that, and it was a crazy way. Like, again, I don't need to go through every play and do the whole thing, but there are some points of interest that will lead me into the entirety of the show, which I think we want to talk about the quarterback of the future, because I'm going to tell you a secret, which, look, not everybody knows this yet, but I'm going to tell you because we are close friends. I'm going to let you know that the future quarterback of the New York Jets is not currently here. He is not in the building, man. Not only is he not in the building, he's not in the state. He's nowhere near what we're doing right now. And I'm going to tell you another secret, especially after this weekend's games, where sadly UVA was beaten by Duke in the ACC championship. Broke my heart, man. The end of just to end the season that way, 10-2, and beating Tech, and I was there, and we ran on the field, and it was such a great season. To lose to Duke, a team that they had beaten earlier in the season, it's just a sad thing. But the other game, the Indiana versus Ohio State, where obvious reasons a lot of Jets fans were interested in, with Fernando Mendoza. He put on a show. He showed everybody why he is claiming the number one position in this year's draft. I should be the number one overall selection, and I'm going to tell you, he's going to be. The Jets are going to want in on him. They like him. They've gone to see him. I believe they've been spotted around Fernando Mendoza 4 separate occasions this season. So it's going to be something that they want to do. Now, that brings us to this whole idea of how we going to get to him. We're definitely, no, I'm not going to say that. It's going to be a tough road if we want to try to get up to that first overall pick. And if not the first overall pick, which is really going to be tough, we want to get as close to it as we can while still working on this team, the young guys, evaluating all the stuff that we're seeing the Jets do this year, learning how to win, all that stuff. We want that to still take place while somehow getting close enough to the first overall pick that you don't have to sell the farm to get your quarterback. And the other thing is, man, there are teams that are quarterback needy, right? That we're going to have to fight with. If one of those teams ends up with the first overall pick, it's a wrap. You would have to, for example, if I think the Raiders, Geno Smith, God bless them, and all that jazz. And I know Pete Carroll, if he does stick around in Las Vegas, I mean, he might love Geno, and their relationship is good, and all the stuff. I don't think there's any real debate on. They would probably not be thinking Geno Smith is the long-term answer, right? So if the Raiders, for example, were in the first spot, to get them to move out of there would take everything. It would take all of it. Honestly, it would take whatever pick we have, 3, 5, 10, whatever it is, plus the Colts pick this year, and probably more than one of the firsts next year. It would take, I'm telling you, it would take 4 firsts to get them out of that spot where they could just sit there and take their quarterback. It would take a lot. So we have all this stuff to kind of look at, and that's what we'll look at today in the Intelligent Gripe. But the game had points of interest that pertain to that whole goal of getting that number one overall pick, or as close as we can to it, so you can get your quarterback. Because the other thing, guys, I'm not so sure that the other quarterbacks in this class are worth betting on, taking. I mean, look, if you're sitting at pick 4 and one of these quarterbacks falls to you, the idea of taking one and just, sticking and picking without having to pay any, additional fees, another first, another second, or whatever. The idea of doing that and then still kind of having your eye with 3 first-round picks and a second in 2027, having your eye on that next year, it's not the worst thing in the world. Look, man, we have no quarterbacks. Just start bringing them in. You bring in Ty Simpson from Alabama, who hasn't looked good if he comes out, right? What about Dante Moore, who, look, a lot of us aren't sold on these guys. What if Mensa is sitting there, and you just decide to take him? Does that preclude you from taking another? But I'm not so sure that any of these guys are worth. Here's the thing. Yes, there's logic and stuff behind taking one and still not being afraid to take one next year. But do you lose out on like a truly great player at another position of need when you're not even so sure that this guy's going to be, he's going to take a year or two to even develop and you're going to draft one next year? You know what I mean? The whole thing, it gets muddy. So you got to look at the things that are happening now and why it's so important. For example, a lot of Jets fans, a lot of you guys were in the Brady Cook camp. For whatever reason, you saw a lot that you liked in the preseason. I didn't. I really didn't. I'm not anti-Brady Cook, of course. I mean, look, anybody putting on a Jets helmet and walking out on the field, I'm rooting for. I would love to find guys, diamonds in the rough, without question. I would much rather a guy that we found on the waiver wire or as an undrafted free agent, I would much rather those guys just lightning in a bottle and end up being amazing starters for us than having to go back to the drawing board or use draft picks or trade or whatever. I would much rather, always. But I didn't see anything in the preseason. Like, I listened to a lot of guys, people that I respect their opinions and all that, whether it be on Twitter or in YouTube or just people I'm talking to. There were some folks that said, oh man, this guy looks like he's got a lot of meat on the bone. I don't know. I wasn't seeing it. I like his arm. He showed some escapability today, all that. They say he's pretty smart and all that jazz. So good. But I wasn't seeing it. And again, just because I didn't see it in a couple preseason games doesn't mean that I'm out on him per se, but a lot going against him. Undrafted free agent, a lot of warts, a lot to work on. And then when you do see him, he doesn't really do much for you. So seeing him in this game, a lot of Jets fans, hey, look, let's start the Brady Cook era, baby. Right, okay, I'm in. But 2 fumbles in the first, 6-8 plays of his NFL career, not the best start. Can we at least agree on that? And look, we talked about it during the live stream. Jeremy and from Jets Chaos and Dom C, the great Dom C. We were together for the live stream, the watch party, and we were talking about it. Let's be real. You can't have expectations that are unrealistic for this guy. The situation that he was thrown into is one that is difficult to say the least. It's the New York Jets, the magnifying glass that is the New York Jets. Anybody who walks on that field, it's like the laser focus, everybody, the weight of the press and the fans, and even in an empty house, the stadium was half empty, and on top of that, the half that was there was half Miami fans, probably. So, even with that, the magnifying glass, the weight of this position being the quarterback of the New York Jets, it's heavy. It's heavy to say the least. So he's coming out. Tyrod Taylor starts the game. He doesn't finish it because of a groin situation, which you have to think that they knew all about it because, man, oh man, was there a push for Brady Cook comments this week, right? We're moving Brady Cook into QB2, and he's a fiery guy, all the stuff that they were saying. You just had this idea, like, I don't know, man, I'm picking up a vibe that insinuates that Brady Cook might see some playing time, man. And if you had that vibe, you were right. So he comes in, and the pressure's there. Miami was blitzing the head. Miami was sending heat today, and it just happened to be a day when our offensive line didn't look as good as they have looked in previous weeks. They just looked a little disheveled. The whole team looked a little off today from the rip. You saw those first 2 drives from Miami offensively. It was like a hot knife through butter, man. It was almost as if the Jets didn't realize that the game had started and we were going to be playing at 100% so quickly, right? It's like, all right, well, wait. We're not settling into this. It felt very much like the starts that we have been so used to during the Robert Saleh era, during the Bowles era. Adam Gase, I don't know. I must have blocked it out. I can't remember. I think Adam Gase was anomalous because He had those, remember Adam Gase? He had those first drives. It was like the first drive of our offense. It was like, I don't know, he seemed like he was really good at scripting that first drive. After that, all bets were off. He had no idea what was going on. But even defensively, we just seemed to, if I remember correctly, we seemed to play well early. Robert Saleh was a flip of that. It seemed like the team just took 2 quarters to get ready to play. This game felt like that. It really did. It just felt like we weren't ready to play. Aaron Glenn, in his post-game press conference, said as much. He kind of led with that, which is, again, one of the reasons that I support this guy, because the way that he designs his presentation is he's trying to pull all focus toward himself. Of course, everybody's going to want to know about this young kid quarterback. Everybody's going to want to know. They're going to ask questions. Blah, 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 blah. We got the young wide receivers. You got all the stuff, the young tight end. Everybody's going to want to be talking and asking and trying to get gotcha moments out of these guys. And Aaron Glenn is pulling all the focus toward himself. And basically what he said was, clearly, I didn't have the team ready to play today. And he said it was obvious. He used the word obvious. It was obvious. Like, let's call it what it is, man. You look at that game, obviously my guys weren't as prepared as their guys. It's flat. There's no debate about it. It is what it is. I failed. And I like that. Not that you want to see that every week. Look, you can claim fault as much as you want. Well, at some point you got to fix this damn thing. You know what I mean? You can't just keep saying, I know. But look, we came out of this last couple weeks where I feel like the entirety of the NFL media and the fans, everybody kind of started to settle in a little bit and say, wait a minute. Aaron Glenn, he's got a big-ass job. First thing, right, he came to a team with Aaron Rodgers on it, and he's got to figure out all that stuff, everything from Aaron Rodgers down. And I feel very strongly, and I've said it every friggin' week, I'm talking Jets on here and whatever, that we were very harsh. Like somebody said in the chat today, well, maybe now all this positive baloney about Aaron Glenn can stop. And it's like, well, I think it was earned. You know what I mean? Like for the first 8, 9, 10 weeks of the season, whatever the hell it was abnormally one-sided in just a really, really harsh critique of everything that Aaron Glenn did. And I think some of it was definitely warranted. And, look, we're watching a guy figuring it out, learning on the job, while trying to uproot the quitter situation and figuring out which players are leaders and all the stuff that he's doing. And we won a couple games last week, culminating, with the win against the Atlanta Falcons. And you can say what it is. Every time we win a game, it's like, oh, but it's the Bengals without Burrow. Oh, but it's the Cleveland Browns and with Dylan Gabriel or whatever. Oh, it's the Falcons with their backup. Well, we're fucking playing with our backup quarterback. I mean, like Ryan's run from Jets Talk 24/7. So really, I like the way he puts it, which he says these are the teams in our weight class. Right? And I think that's a good way to put it. Like, we're not out there competing with the Bills and the Chiefs are struggling a little bit, but you know what I mean? Like those Super Bowl contending teams, that's not where we are. We have to play the teams that are in our weight class and hopefully win a few of those. And that's what we've been doing. We've been able to pull out a few wins. And earlier in the season, we were unable to close out a few games that really were ours. So, they're learning how to do this. So when you're playing these teams, you gotta pay attention to, are we making the same mistakes over and over and all that jazz. I think Aaron Glenn has done a good job of not making the same mistakes over and over and over again. So we're seeing that. So it leads you into this scenario where we have 4 games left. And now, remember, look, the Justin Fields experiment, we got our data. It's not going to work. You bring in Tyrod Taylor because you have this idea that at least we want to, evaluate other people. At least want to get an offense on the field. You want to be able to do. Justin Fields couldn't do anything. Like as bad as Brady Cook was in this game, he had 163 yards passing. Justin Fields has played 4 quarters of football with a net 15. Or remember the 54-yard game where one play was a little screen pass to Breece Hall that he popped off for 42 yards. So he had 14 yards the whole game. So that's, what we're looking at here is you went to Tyrod Taylor just to try to get something going. And we happened to win. So you're able to figure out a little bit of the other things. And look, we have some big ones. You make these trades, Sauce and Quinnen and Michael Carter II. These are guys that we thought were going to be a part of this team. You bring in Mechie, you bring in Adonai Mitchell, you bring in, the tackle. Are we ever going to see that guy? I don't know. But you get to look at these guys. And that's the positive. But then right in the middle of that now, which is normal for Tyrod Taylor, which is why people like myself, there's been a kind of a growing cry for, look, if we're going to have a vet quarterback next year or even a bridge situation, why not make it Tyrod Taylor? This is why. Because Tyrod Taylor, God bless him, I think he's good enough to give you average play and you can compete and all that. I don't think that's a question. The problem is you only got him for a few games. If you get him for half the season, it's kind of a good thing. He was at his max. So here we go, Brady Cook. Now we have to see this whole thing, and it's a scenario that in the event he ends up having to play the rest of the season, great, you get to look at him and all that. But really what's going on, I would love to see him turn a corner and grow and all that. And you think, all right, man, we got a backup quarterback developing. Fantastic. But more than likely, what you're going to watch is similar to what we watched with like the Luke Falk period of time when Sam had mono and Trevor Siemian got his leg broken in the first game he came in. And we ended up with this kid who wasn't ready, and it destroyed his career. So that's what we're probably looking at. Whether or not his career is destroyed, I don't know. But the point being, this sloppy, ugly, kind of no offense type of games. And that sucks for the evaluation piece that we were trying to hope to get to. Dude, we had and what's scary about it is when he was on, Brady Cook, in the Miami game, you had 9 drops as well. Now, the drops are weird because a lot of those, it's just an amazingly consistent phenomenon. I don't even know how the hell we've done it. I mean, there should be a study. Really, scientists should come and study this. How we have figured out an amazing way to find quarterbacks from all different walks of life, age, background, like young, old, vets, rooks, undrafted free agent, second overall pick. Every single one of them does this thing where they just can't seem to hit a wide receiver in stride. The wide receivers are constantly, it doesn't matter who it is, constantly stopping mid-route to slam on the brakes and get a pass that's behind them, where they're running down the sideline with a step and a half on the DB and they got to slow and wait for the passing. We see it. It's constant. It's consistent. Doesn't matter if they're blonde hair, blue-eyed, good-looking mama lovers from Utah or a 15-year vet from, Baltimore. It just doesn't matter. They all do the same thing. And Brady Cook was doing that too. So you have these 9 drops, but so many passes today were behind the receivers and, dirt balls that they're diving to catch, but it hits their hands. And yes, maybe they should catch. Dude, at this point, it's really getting difficult to know who to blame anymore. You know what I mean? But I think it has a lot to do with the overall inexperience of the head coach, the offensive coordinator, the other staff, the staff as a whole, the team as a whole, and now the quarterback. Now, but young wide receivers, everybody's new in the offense. There's a lot to this. Now, you can hear it like for example, if you're an anti-Glenn guy, you're like, I didn't like him, I don't want him, I was out week 2, he's done nothing to show me otherwise, he's just a bad coach. And look, I disagree, but that doesn't mean I think you're wrong to have your opinion, right? There's data. You have reasons to feel that way. And what you would hear coming out of my mouth would be excuses. Oh, you're making excuses. Why would I make excuses? I didn't even want the friggin' guy. I really didn't. You guys know, if you've been around, I wasn't an Aaron Glenn guy. And I love Aaron Glenn, the player, the man, all that shit. But I didn't want another rookie defensive coach, right? I didn't. And I really put that I really just drove that home over and over and over again where I stood on the thing. But here we are. I'm not going to wax poetic on the same shit that I just said in the last podcast about why, the reasons I think Aaron Glenn's doing a good job. But here I am, and the throwing an undrafted rookie quarterback into the mix, it really mucks up the works on trying to do at least the thing that you can do with this season, which sucks. So here we are, man. We're going to play the Jacksonville Jaguars in a few days, right? In a week, next week. And then we got the Saints. The Jaguars, I believe, unless we somehow, trap game, or we somehow just everything's all cylinders, they're going to beat us pretty good. That's what I think. They should. They're a team on the ascend with a real quarterback. Maybe didn't reach the heights that we thought he would but he's a good quarterback. And they got a good team, and they're going places this year. They're in the mix. I think they're going to stomp us. The Saints, interesting game. And that's who's next. So we can beat them. We don't want to, but they look like they might be turning a little corner here. So, you know what I mean? What's going to happen? The only thing that's important, there are really two things that are important, really. In addition to finding out the players and all that, Aaron Glenn has got to learn from everything going on right now how to be the head coach that he's going to be moving into his future. That's it. That's one side of things. With that comes how is he going to deal with the offensive coordinator? Where does Steve Wilkes come into the mix? All that's part of the Aaron Glenn thing. Which players are on his team, right? Who's he going to be, and what does he need? That's it. That's one side. The other side of this is, dude, where is our quarterback coming from? Because it is time that the Jets had one, and a real one. You have to find where this guy, who he is, where's he coming from, and what resources can I possibly dig up to ensure that this guy succeeds. That's it. Like if Mechie, I think he's got just so much talent. If he continues to drop consecutive pass, not consecutive, but multiple passes each week, he dropped 2 more in this game, 3 the previous week. 1 from the previous week and 1 in this game were easy walk-in touchdowns. So this kid dropped 2 touchdowns in 2 weeks. If he continues to do that shit, out. Can't have you, man. I'm just not playing games anymore with this idea that we're going to change and we're going to figure it out. No, man. In or out. Succeed or don't. If they're young and they're developing, that's one thing. You're building somebody. Okay. But a guy like a Mechie or an A.D. Mitchell or whoever, who's going to be wide receiver 2? Who's going to be wide receiver 3, 4? Who are these guys? And we can't have guys with drop-itis running all over the place. We already got Arian Smith. We know that's his fucking problem. We knew that drafting him, which is why, look, this whole idea, speed kills, you can't teach speed. Yeah, I'm with it. Can they catch? It's like a quarterback. Look at his arm. Oh, my God. Is he accurate? Can he think when the pass rush is coming? Can he figure out what's going on and where to go with the ball? Can he read a defense? Oh, look at that arm. You just can't teach that kind of shit. You can't teach a rocket arm. Give me a guy with a rocket arm and I'll fix everything else. Bullshit. Not here. Not for the Jets. So that is the thing. Who is Aaron Glenn? What is he going to be? And what does he need around him? Linebackers that are 215 like Sherwood or 240 like Leo Chanel? Who do we need here, Aaron Glenn? What is it that we're going to be? And the other thing is, at all costs, where are we finding our quarterback now? Who is it? Where's he coming from? Let's dig into how realistic it is to get to that pick that we can find our quarterback in the Intelligent Gripe. All right, so like I said, Jets got 4 games left. 4 games. The Jags, the Saints, the Pats, the Bills. That's it. If you look at this, if you look at it through the lens we were looking at it through last week, you got a situation where you're like, hey, man, we can split these. I don't know so much anymore. And we don't know. What are they going to do this week? Is Justin Fields back? I mean, he had knee soreness or something like that, I think they said. So Tyrod Taylor's got a groin. Justin Fields has a knee. And Brady Cook is a young kid whose head is spinning. He's going to look at the tape, man. Let me just point this out to you. In his first start, Brady Cook had 2 fumbles, 2 end zone interceptions, and 6 sacks. Dude, that's crazy town. That is a crazy town collection of bad stuff, right? Isn't it? And he somehow had 163 yards, almost 200 yards. It's crazy. So, we got to find our quarterback. We're looking at these last 4 games. The first game, let's look at the draft board, where it stands right now. So this week, the Jets are currently comfortably snuggled into pick number 7, which is where we got Membu last year. The quarterback situation in this upcoming 2026 draft, I don't think 7 is where you want to be if Mendoza's your guy. Right? Maybe even if Ty Simpson, Dante Moore, or I don't even think 7's good for them. It might be, because here's the way it looks right now. Right now, interestingly enough, the Tennessee Titans, who we all were pretty resigned to believing they're done. They don't got nothing in the tank. They go out and they win a game today. They beat the Browns, who we needed the Browns to win. Again, for just thinking that Tennessee's got the number 1 pick on lock. So you start rooting for the other stuff. See what can happen and what can help you. The Browns losing really messed up our moving up and down the draft board, but it took Tennessee out of the number 1 pick. This is like what the Jets did in 2020. Or 21, right? 2020 in that season. So the 2021 draft anyway, when we beat the Rams, it was like, what is this? We're garbage. Where is this coming from? Why did we beat the Rams? What the frig? So the Tennessee Titans go out there and they beat the Browns, moves them out of the number 1 spot, which could change their entire trajectory as a team. They had the number 1 pick. They got Cam Ward, so they're good. They didn't need to use that pick at number 1. Dude, they could have gotten whatever. There's going to be teams. There's going to be a bidding war. And they could have gotten 2, 3, whatever it ends up being, firsts and some seconds. They could have got all kinds of stuff, which would have helped them build around Cam Ward. But here they are. They now slide down to number 2, and that puts the New York Giants in the number 1 spot. Now, the good news with the Giants is they don't need a quarterback, theoretically. I mean, the guy has already been banged up, concussions and stuff. They might feel a little bit, maybe not as solid as we think they do. They might feel like they're on shaky ground. So maybe they do want it. But let's assume they don't. They got their quarterback, and they got Scatterboo, and all's well. So you got the Giants and the Titans at 1 and 2. Then you got the Las Vegas Raiders, who lost this week against the Broncos. They made it a game, but they lost. The Raiders' remaining games are the Eagles. They're going to lose. And again, any game, you can win any game, right? We know this. But the Eagles are going to likely beat them. Then they play the Texans. That's one that maybe they could pull off, right? You got the Giants. So the Giants or the Raiders. Somebody's moving. And then you got the Chiefs. So the Raiders are interesting because they likely need a quarterback. And they're currently at pick 3. And they have a schedule which they could probably split. They could. More likely, they lose out, and they're sitting there with a 2-15 record, fighting. They're in a war for that first overall pick. Depending on especially what happens with the Giants game. Now, then you got the Browns. The Browns schedule is tough too. Look at this. The Browns probably, realistically, probably losing out. The Browns got the Bears, who are playing lights out football. They're probably going to lose a boot in their asses. The Bills, who are fighting for their lives, right? And they beat whoever the hell it was today or this week. Crazy game, the Bills. They ended up winning. Then you got the Steelers, who are playing for their playoff lives. And then you got the Bengals with Joe Burrow back and all that jazz. So there's a realistic world where the Browns... So there you go. Like all these teams, obviously the Giants and Raiders play and there's some other... But like these teams, there's not much hope for moving into that zone. There's like a... it's like protected. Then you got the Saints, who are winning, right? They won, and this Tyler Shock looks like he has some meat on the bone here, which would be really interesting if he ends. Let's say the Saints come out and they start playing really good ball with this young quarterback at the center of it, and they decide, you know what? Maybe we would rather keep him and use this pick to give him Tate, a great wide receiver, or maybe a left tackle, or, something like that. I'm not sure what their needs are. But, something like, let's use this and build around this guy. I mean, if he shows enough, maybe they could pivot, which would be really helpful because it takes them out of the quarterback mix. One of the teams that up until this thought, I'm thinking are in our way to get the quarterback going. So that's going to be it. Then you got the Commanders. Now, the Commanders are not in the quarterback market. So that's one thing. But currently they're still ahead of us, pick 6. So you have to move past them. It's one more spot that we'd have to go through. So really you're looking at the quarterback teams, the Raiders, the Browns with Shedeur Sanders. That's another one. Sanders looks like he's got some real potential. They go in, they're activating, they open the practice window for Deshaun Watson, and they're saying he's going to be on the roster next year. So you go into next year with a quarterback room of Shedeur Sanders, who's playing good ball, Deshaun Watson as the backup, and then you got this Dylan Gabriel floating around, on the practice squad or whatever. I mean, they might be out of the quarterback market. So this is the stuff. When you start looking at this path to the quarterback, which is, for our sake right now, looks like Fernando Mendoza is the guy. You want him, you got to do what you got to do to go get him. The good news is the Jets have more ammo than anybody. There's nobody coming to the party with bigger guns than the Jets. That said, do you want to use them all? I don't. But then you got to put it on the scale. The idea of trading Sauce Gardner and Quinnen Williams and needing most of that capital just to get the quarterback, it's like it sucks on one hand, especially if he fails, which is what the Jets have done historically, so there's obviously going to be fear and all that shit. But it would be worth it. Like if you look at it and you go, okay, you look back to 2025 and the Jets made this trade. They traded away Sauce Gardner, a cornerback, and a defensive tackle, and they got their quarterback who's been among the best quarterbacks in the league the last 5 years. Like, let's say in 5 years we're looking back. And you look at it and you go, the Jets traded those guys and got Mendoza, who's a fucking lights out success. The guy that ends up being our quarterback, our guy, our Drake May, our Bo Nix. Crazy, isn't it? Jaden Daniel. You know what I mean? Like our guy that ends up being our guy, our Justin Herbert. You know what I mean? Who's our guy. If you look at that, if he's a success, it doesn't matter what you pay, man. It doesn't matter. And I don't think it'll take 5 firsts and 3 seconds to do it. So you're going to have a little something extra. Like imagine you got to pay 2 firsts or like let's say 3 firsts. You got to give him 3. This year's 2 firsts and a first next year just to go from 6 to or 7 to 1. Let's say that's what it takes. That sucks. Now, but the good news is, think about this. You just gave them 3 first-round picks. You just gave up 3 first-round picks. But you're still hanging around with 2 seconds. You got your quarterback in 2 seconds. And then next year, you got 2 firsts in a second. Like, we still have extra. You still got the goods. It's not the worst situation in the world, man. So I think here, what we are is you look at the board. We're at 7. There are 4 weeks left. Some of these teams play each other. Some teams are turning a corner. The Saints, dude, maybe Cam Ward's fucking waking up. Maybe the Titans win a couple and push themselves into pick 4 or 5. Maybe. Wouldn't that be spectacular? And then it was a good thing that the Browns lost to them and all that jazz. So you get the Titans out of there. And then it's the Jets moving up the board because we lose. Now look at this. The Jets' strength of schedule, which changes as teams win and lose, but where we start right now, the Jets have a .539. If the Jets had 2 wins, we're in the 2nd overall pick. Right now, and this is why the tank side of things, right? Lots of you guys, and every year I'm one of you. This year I'm just taking a more in the middle approach just for myself. But the tanksters, if we didn't beat the Falcons last week, right now, and everything else was the same. The only thing different, the Jets lost to the Falcons. Right now we are sitting at pick 2. With our strength of schedule, and everybody else's strength of schedule, which is the next, there's record, then strength of schedule. Right now, we're sitting at pick 2, above the Tennessee Titans because they won. Think about that. That's how fine of a thread this really is. How thin, how razor sharp it really is. Right now, there are 3 2-win teams, 5 3-win teams, and 2 4-win teams. One game shuffles that up so much. You see it? Do you see it? One game. And that's why this idea of starting Brady Cook and letting him take his lumps, it could be the masterstroke. It really could. He's good enough to toss the ball around and get it to some receivers who are currently dropping it. Ruckert, Mitchell, Mechie, they all had drops. Taylor, everybody had drops today, baby. Everybody. Well, let's say he starts the rest of the year. He's good enough to toss it around a little bit. Not great, and got a nice arm. There were some throws that were real pretty. But he's bad enough. Let's say he's good enough to toss the ball around so you could still kind of work on some evaluations and get some guys some playing time and see where they are and all that. But he's not good enough to beat these teams, the Pats, the Bills, the Jags. The Saints are an anomaly right now. But you could theoretically lose out here and be not even trying hard to do. You can just lose out, be sitting at 3 wins. The Titans win 1 more. The Giants win one. And all of a sudden, the Saints win one. All of a sudden, the idea of us sliding into 1 or 2 isn't so crazy. Because I'm going to tell you this. If you're at pick 2, jumping up to 1 when the other teams are calling, saying, hey, we'll give you 2 firsts and 2 seconds. That's all well and good, but I got to slide down to 7. Or I can take the Jets second and just move down a pick. I know who they're taking. I'll take their free second, and I can still stay right here at second and get the guy I want. Reese, Tate, whoever. Or you could slide down at 2, and then you're sitting there. The Jets take Mendoza. See who's open for business, see who wants more or whoever. Simpson, whoever. So when you're up there, it's a whole different ball of wax, which... Like I've said, I'm really rooting for the team to play well and lose. It's tough, but not so bad. So our path to the first overall pick is not so unrealistic. The NFL's a weird place, and teams are doing stuff. The Titans, I don't know what they are. This was 1 week out of nowhere. But the Titans, the Browns, and the Saints, their quarterback situation is really what we're looking at. And if Shedeur Sanders and Tyler Shock and Cam Ward can just start to put some things together, take somebody by surprise, give them a little uppercut that knocks them silly for a minute, and win a couple games, and the Jets are sitting with Brady Cook, the least exciting or the least hopeful out of all the names I just said, Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, and Tyler Shock all look like they're more able to turn that corner than Brady Cook. The Jets could lose out. And then we're in that first overall pick conversation. And if not, that top 3 conversation, because our strength of schedule. The only thing that hurts it is we play the Saints, and if they whatever. It's just, there's a lot there. A lot of details. You just can't account for all of them. You can't. At least I can't with this mathematics. I'm not the guy. But it's not so difficult. It's hard, right? It's like a lot has to happen. If you just look at it, Brady Cook, he might be the masterstroke. He just might be. Not that they're doing it on purpose. I'm not saying they're tanking, but he might end up being exactly what the doctor ordered to still be able to kind of be evaluating and all that, but lose these games soundly and get closer and closer to that number 1 overall pick, man. It's real. With that all said, let me know what you think. Where do you stand on this one? Not tank or not, just the realism, the reality of this. What do you think can happen? What do you think's likely to happen? I don't care if you're on Team Tank and we're stupid or meaningless games. I don't care about any of that shit. We've said it 1,000 times, and we know the narrative. We know it. It's fine. It is what it is. But what do you think of the realistic possibility of getting there should these things happen? What's the likelihood? I'd love to know. Guys, have a great Monday. Enjoy the rest of the week. And as always, go Jets.